Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
From this week forward, God willing, we'll ensure that states, tribes, and territories will now always have a reliable 3-week forecast on what the supply they're going to get. So they'll know 3 weeks ahead of time what's going to be there in the third week.
Which is what people need. States need to know that. Some states have no idea what they're getting. Some states are asking for stuff and not getting it. At the end of the day, we went through all this stuff to get a vaccine, to try to get ourselves out of this absolute debacle that we're in that is crushing our children's souls. It is crushing our economy. It is hurting people immeasurably when it comes to things like their mental health, their financial health, and their actual health. We need to know. What are we getting? What are we not getting? How can we go and move forward? Some states are holding stuff back because they're like, oh, we don't know what we're going to be getting from the feds. So if we don't know what we're getting from the feds, we can't buy our own. So I can't get my own stuff. So like, there's none of that. So I have to hold stuff back because we've already vaccinated X amount of people and some of them are getting ready to come back for their second shot. And if we give it all out, you're like, oh, God. So there needs to be a plan between the feds and the states. Once the states get it, it's up to them to distribute it. Some states have been, like here in Arizona, our governor sent out a letter yesterday essentially saying, hey, over here, they're vaccinating everybody. You guys have a bunch of stuff over here, and you guys aren't really doing anything with it. So the new rule is use it or lose it. If you're not going to use it, then you need to give it to other parts of the state that are going to use it. But it's a partnership, and some people don't get that. It's the states. The states can't purchase it on its own. What you do with it once you get it is up to the states. But you can't get it on your own. Other states have tried. But to get us out of this mess, I talked to Dr. Will Humble yesterday. He kind of ran Arizona's Department of Health Services for a long time, and now you see him on MSNBC and CNN and Fox and stuff talking about all this stuff. Really good guy, and he was telling us. I asked him. I said, Will, how do we get out of this for real? What's it going to really look like? Is it really going to be all vaccine? He goes, we're not going to vaccinate ourselves out of this the way that people think. He goes, we don't know how many people were asymptomatic. We may never know. And the second thing is, until we get Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca, and I'll tell you in a minute why those things are important when it comes to vaccination of the coronavirus. If we do get out of it just with this, that's why we need Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. But if it's only Moderna and Pfizer, we're not going to vaccinate ourselves out of this. We will get there through herd immunity by probably exposure, where people have already got the antibodies because they've had it, and vaccination, but that'll take a much longer time. Why AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson are important. Johnson & Johnson 1 shot, AstraZeneca 2. The difference is regular refrigeration. So your doctor, the CVS, any place out there can carry this comparatively to what these things need. And that's why those things are important. Why AstraZeneca has not been approved yet is beyond me. They've been using it in the UK, and the last time I checked, nobody's exploded or grown a tail. So I know there are different standards, but in a situation like this where we want to get our lives back, I think it's time to think outside the box a smidge. And that brings us to the school side of things. And this to me is important. I have little ones. My son Jack is struggling tremendously. Most of you out there listening either have kids or grandkids, and you know exactly what they're going through, and you're going through it as well. And the thought process has always been, we got to protect the teachers. They're super spreaders. But guess what? There's a new study out. Maybe what the Europeans were saying all along is the kids really aren't affected and don't spread it as much as people would think.
The scientists looked at a 3-month period of classes in 17 kindergarten through 12th grade schools in rural Wisconsin. The safety protocols were strict. The schools required all students and teachers to follow strict safety rules that included wearing masks at all times and keeping social distance. In the period they looked at, 191 students and staff tested positive for COVID, but they only connected 7 of those cases to the spread of disease at school.
And that's a big thing. Gets our kids back into school. What's that do? They're calling what's going on, a lot of this is a she session. Because when you look at the way that things are breaking down, women, for two reasons. One, a lot of them in the hospitality industry, comparatively to men, they outnumber men in the hospitality industry, restaurants, things of that nature. They've been hurt disproportionately because the second thing, and this is important as well, still the caregivers at home. So women have left the workforce to the tune of about 2 to 3 million, aren't looking for a new job, and their responsibility is working out of the house and schooling children. What does this say about the schools? Well, is this true? There's always two sides to every story with the CDC. This is Chief of Staff Ron Klain talking about that CDC study.
The President of the United States sent a plan to Congress even before he took office to make the investments you need to make the schools safe. What that study in Wisconsin from the CDC showed was that 17 rural schools that got a sizable grant from a private foundation to put in the kinds of safety measures they needed. Students in very small pods, classes of about 11 or 12, distanced in a rural area, they could go to school safely. And governors who've made those investments, but in other states, we haven't seen those kinds of investments.
Well, whose fault's that? Well, you've got many schools across the country who are being held hostage by teachers' unions, who aren't just demanding that the kid, everybody get vaccinated, demanding things like, racial equality, equity, single payer health care. I mean, some of these things are insane, and they're saying we're just not going to go back to class. It's frustrating as hell. Yeah, they did a study. They did the things. And the funny thing is, they act like they're doing something like these kids are all inside bubbles and things like this. It's not that. It's not hard to ask the kids to do certain things. Are they always going to listen? No. But you're making excuses of why you can't get the kids back in school. Well, you're going to open up school when? Because there was a plan.
President Biden has sent a plan to Congress that will make sure that a majority of our schools could be open within 100 days. We need Congress to pass that plan so we can do the kinds of things you need to do so that the schools can be safe, so the teachers can be safe, so the students can be safe. Sadly, it costs money.
It costs money. Yeah, that's right. And you guys are doing what? We're spending money on all kinds of crap. These are the things that need to be targeted when you're talking about stuff. These are. But then you get to the bureaucracy and the crap, and it goes sideways. Here's some parents. This is a parent, Justin Riddles, Virginia, parent. Listen how long his kid's been out of school.
Our situation for our 190,000 students in Fairfax County is that we've been locked out of our schools for nearly 330 days now. We feel like Charlie Brown in that football. We've had 3 or 4 return to school plans. And just like Lucy, our school board yanks that football away at the last second. It's resulted in a very predictable academic and mental health crisis, and it's time for us to move forward.
Absolutely. Feel the same way. They've already told my son Jack in San Diego, they're not even going to entertain going back to school until March. He would have been out of school for a year. So 1 year, he would have been out of school. And that's entertaining. There's a good chance that he may not get going back to school till next year. So essentially 16, 18 months where he was out of school. Yes, he was doing some learning, and we're blessed that his school is a little bit more advanced. It's STEM. They operated in such a way that the programs are pretty good. But school's not just about the education in the books. It's about being around other people. It's about problem solving. It's about relationships. It's about growing. That you can't bring back. And it is absolutely affected him. As I think most of you who have grandkids or kids, you understand that. You saw what took place in Vegas where they said, hey, we got to open up schools. We're having an abundance of suicides, and we know why. These are the things as the trickle down that I don't think people saw coming. The fact that women have left the workforce in such a way because they're staying home. And we said there's 3 to 4 million jobs when this thing first really took off that people will have to leave to take care of their children because their kid's going to be in school. And I said, and then you're going to get the start-stop as that parent was talking about. And my mother's talked about my little brother's start, stop. Go for 2 weeks. Oh, we got to close the whole school down. We're going to open up next week. Oh, no. Hey, we're going to open up after Christmas. And then 3 days before, no, we're not opening up. Can't live your life like that. And that's the entire, that's a snapshot of what's been going on in the entire country. Get this thing under control? Absolutely. But also we talk about what? Let's be honest with the facts. We may have to learn to live with this thing, through this thing, and around this thing. We still don't know. Can you catch it a second time? Well, the CDC or the World Health Organizations, it's rare. You might be able to. One study says this, one study says that. How long will this last as far as the shot? Maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months. So people are frustrated. And you wonder why people are pushing back? It's because they feel there's no transparency and the information they get at best is half-ass. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. We're talking more about this throughout the day because I hear from so many people every day about the struggles their kids are having. And because I talk about my son, Jack. And again, he's 10. But his struggles and it's not just the school side of it. Like I said, it's the being around, but it's also the sports, the being outside of going to my house and going to his uncle's. He has very little interaction, and maybe once in a while he'll have a play date with a friend because they both tested negative. That's not a way to live, and it's not healthy. It isn't. And we haven't been honest at the beginning because we've been trying to cure death rather than face the facts that we need to be safe, but we also need to use common sense and personal responsibility. And I don't think we've done any of that. Part of it's politics, and part of it is, well, selfishness. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. It is Woke Wednesday. We got some good woke stuff for you today. Good woke stuff. Because we like to make sure that you are woken up properly, if you will. Home title lock. Protect your house. Well, why do I need to protect my house? Because people can steal. It's easier to steal your home. And we're not talking about somebody coming up with like a tow truck and towing your house away. We're talking about doing it in a subtle way that is very profitable for them and causes you a nightmare and potentially for you to lose your home. It's title theft. So what they do is they go and they change ownership of the house, forge your signature, notary. Next thing you know, you start getting phone calls and mail, and you start realizing, hey, something's going on with my house. And oh my goodness, somebody has pretended to buy your house, and now they're taking out loans on your home, and then you're in trouble. Home Title Lock is there to show you, hey, all of your information's out there, but we're going to do everything we can to protect you. So when somebody does try to get to your title, we're going to alert you on that. Here's the other side of that. Should somebody get by, should somebody do that, they're going to give you $250,000 to fight it in court. So you don't have to worry about, how am I going to pay for this? Could I lose everything? Protect your home now with Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com. Register your address. See if you're already a victim. You're going to get 30 days free protection. Use code radio. That's HometitleLock.com. Code radio. HometitleLock.com. Code radio. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
The bulletin of the atomic scientist's doomsday clock minute hand last year was set at 100 seconds from midnight, the closest so far. It said humanity faces nuclear war, climate change, cyber-enabled information warfare that undercuts society's ability to respond. The bulletin's Science and Security Board meets twice a year and consults with scientists and other experts. The doomsday clock was created in 1947. It was farthest from 12 a.m. in 1991 at the end of the Cold War.
Well, Biden's in there, so we'll have to roll it back like 10 minutes. You know what makes me laugh about that? When you go and look at, like, we think about all of this stuff. Okay, coronavirus, yeah, it's a pain in everybody's ass. It's been deadly. We've overreacted in some places. We underreacted in other places. But when you look at a lot of different things and you take a step back and you're like, wow, we're not going to nuclear war. Nobody has the appetite for it. They may have the weapons for it, but those weapons are for show. So the person next to them has weapons, really isn't going to use them. Secondly, been pretty quiet. I mean, we probably have less war going on now than God knows when. And the climate thing, we're doing what we can in some ways to address it, but it's become such a political issue that nobody believes anybody, and that's the problem. When people use science politically, other people will doubt said science because they feel there's a motive. And when I feel that way, when you're using science as a political weapon, it's because you want something done. And you figure, you know what? I can shame you into doing something. I can force you into doing something. All of that stuff. You step back and you're like, this is where we have issues. But do I think that, the world's coming to an end and we're facing... settle down. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program, touch a little bit on yes, we're going to call it impeachment. Here's the question. Is it really whether or not they should, or is it when they should, if they want to do this? And I think that's a better question at this moment in time that isn't being asked. And yesterday we heard John Kennedy, who always makes us laugh, not that one, but the other one, who the senator, who talked about the fact that maybe we need to ask if this is even constitutional, because people who are studies of the Constitution are like, I don't know. Others are like, it absolutely is. And others are like, it's completely not. Maybe the 9 that will probably decide whatever happens, they should chime on in it before that. Just a question. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
In a few minutes, I will insist on a vote to affirm that this proceeding we are about to enter is unconstitutional, that impeachment of a private citizen is illegal and essentially a bill of attainder, and that no sense of fairness or due process would allow the judge in the proceeding to be a partisan Democrat already on favor of the impeachment. A sham, this is.
Rand Paul, impeachment. It's happened. Now at the trial. Yesterday I asked the question, we've touched on this, it's not whether or not there should be accountability and discussions about what to do. It's about when to do it, I think is important. And if I'm Biden, I'm asking serious questions of the Democrats. Everybody talks about unity. Is this really going to be unity? I know what a lot of people are saying. What about?
I don't think you can skip the accountability phase when you've had a president engaged in an attempted violent insurrection against the U.S. government. That's what happened here.
Chris Murphy on Rand and his vote. Accountability is great, but there are things that I think we need to pay more attention to at this moment that deserve the attention at this moment. And I think Rand Paul is right. This is a private citizen now. Yes, you started the impeachment process before he left office, but the reality is it maybe censure's better. But I understand what they're trying to do.
though President Trump is already out of office, impeachment does come with a provision that disallows the president from running in the future.
That's very interesting. Yes, I think that's the big thing, try to stop him from running in the future. But the question is, do we need this at this moment? Or is there another way? And also, is this a situation where you walk through the entire thing, right? So you go through the whole process. And then you find out, well, you guys couldn't do this. John Kennedy.
I know that common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C., but I think a fair-minded, rational person would ask Congress to vote to ask the Supreme Court to rule on the constitutionality of impeaching a president who isn't president before we put the country through this. I just don't see how this is in the common good of our country. In fact, I think it's corrosive to the common good.
And I think there's something to that. And if you're Joe Biden, people have asked, well, why is it, we were just talking off the air, producer Phil's like, I can't believe New York's not pouncing all over him. Joe Biden's administration right now is hemming and hawing on whether or not to turn over tax returns and stuff to Congress. If I'm Joe Biden, I want this to go away as fast as possible. And the reason is simple. I don't want him in every press conference. I don't want him still living rent-free in the media, the press conference, and my presidency for a lot of people because they're hyper-focused to get this when we have other things that we should be focusing on. Accountability, absolutely. But also realize that you're not going to get probably what you think you're going to get. And the second time you try this, a lot of people were over it the first time. And they're looking at this as even more, even though all the things that took place, they're looking at this as you're continuing to go after somebody that you wanted to get from the day he assumed power. And I'm looking at it from a Joe Biden. He's been in the office a week. I'm looking at it from that perspective is, do you want him in every press conference? Do you want 1, 2, 3 questions? Do you want every, CBS, NBC, ABC, New York Times, MSNBC, Fox, and everything continuing to bring him up and keep him top mind? Because we've talked about it with Trump. Ed Koch, who was the famous mayor of New York, there was a great documentary came out a couple of years ago, it was on HBO, about the fact that he felt dead without a microphone in front of his face, like he didn't exist. That, in many ways, if you want to get Trump, and that's what it is for a lot of people, it's about getting Trump, is the way you do it. You don't make him. He's like a kid that doesn't care what kind of attention he gets, as long as he's getting attention. So the accountability, 100%. Let's find out first if it's even something constitutionally before you go through the rigmarole. And secondly, ask the question is this the right time when we're facing all of these other things that we do this? Is it going to look so ridiculous and get completely partisan to the point where you're just like, wow, this has got out of hand? Republicans are already threatening to do things. We know the Democrats, especially the likes of Schiff and everybody else who are just they're frothing at the mouth, and they have been forever. And that's singularly the only thing they care about. But, Republicans have their game they can play.
If there's an effort by the Democrats to call a single witness in the United States Senate, they had no record in the House, there will be delay of this trial. There will be a Pandora's box being opened. We will want witnesses, and this thing will go on for weeks, if not months. So I'm hoping that we have a trial based on a stipulation of fact, not witnesses, and we get this behind us in the House.
Lindsey Graham. So you got to ask yourself, if you're Biden, not if you're the Senate, the Congress has done their stuff, the House has done their stuff, but not if you're the Senate. If you're Biden, are you asking things like, if we're going to do this, make it quick? Let's get on with our lives. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. It's Woke Wednesday. I love wokeness. I'm kidding. I don't. I think it's silly. Yesterday we touched on some of the big movies that are, being recognized this year. And one of them is Da 5 Bloods.
We've been dying for this country from the very get.
Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods is getting a lot of love from the National Board of Review. They just voted the Netflix drama about 5 black Vietnam vets returning there to search for their fallen comrade and the fortune and gold they left behind the best film of 2020. Da 5 Bloods also took Best Ensemble and Best Director honors, with star Chadwick Boseman posthumously honored with the National Board of Review's Icon Award.
That brother was the best damn soldier that ever lived.
Christopher Watson, ABC News.
So Spike Lee came out the other day and he said Trump is Hitler. Compared him to Hitler, in such a way that, he talked about he's going to be remembered as a Hitler type. And I'm here to tell you, let me tell you guys something. There's the Godwin's law, which essentially says that if, he says Donald Trump will go down in history with the likes of Hitler at the Film Critics Award. That was a speech he gave. No, he won't. He was a lot of things. Let me tell you something about it, right? Like, you want to be woke, and it's great. It's easy to say that, right? It's easy to say that. He's going to go down with the likes of Hitler. You see all the things he's done, the evil. He's not. He's not. He's not going to go down with the likes of Hitler. Was he brash? Yes. Did he make people uncomfortable? Yes. Did he piss people off, even his own party? Yes. Did he say things that were uncouth? Absolutely. Did he say things that were offensive? 100%. Did he do things that pissed people off, especially super woke people? Yes. Did he get himself in trouble? Yeah. Did he play too close to certain factions, some of which white supremacist, some of which super conspiracy theorist? Did he want to win? Yeah. But when you mention Adolf Hitler, you do realize who you're talking about, right? The man who started a war that killed 50 million people, that systematically murdered and slaughtered over 6+ million Jews. And we're not talking even about the gypsies, the gays, the people with mental disabilities. You do realize that that's not the same thing. Yeah, he's a Richard. You didn't like what he tweeted. They're not the same. When you compare him to Stalin, it's not the same. When you compare him to Pol Pot, killed 3 million people, died under house arrest. Not the same. Well, he was a dictator. How was he a dictator? I'm just curious. How was he a dictator? Well, the things he said. Well, some of the stuff he said. And that's what I love. People say, well, some of the stuff he said. And look what happened at the Capitol. The Capitol was ridiculous. I think we can all agree with that. The way that he handled the last 60 days of saying that I felt like something was stolen. But the last 4 years, the left thought everything was stolen from them as well. And that Russia was somehow involved, even when it was proved that it was a bunch of crap. No, he's nothing like Hitler. Being what you think is a bad person doesn't make him Adolf Hitler. Doesn't make him Stalin or Pol Pot. Doesn't make him Chairman Mao or Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il. But that's the stuff of wokeness because it's easy and people go, oh, no, sorry. And for the people out there, when I hear them say, well, he's a dictator. How is that? How is he a dictator? Well, because of the things he said about the press. And the things he said about, but did he ever stop the press? I mean, did people go online and say and do things that were basically anything they wanted to him all the time? 100%. Did he have the likes of big tech and everybody else against him? Absolutely. Did he fight back hard? Yeah. Did he pick fights that he didn't need to pick? 100%. But just remember, when you're talking about Adolf Hitler because you think I can compare Trump to the likes of that. No, not even close. And it does a disservice across the board to people who suffered through that just so you could feel woke. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. By the way, the Five Bloods, awesome. Just want to tell you that. I love Spike Lee as a director. I don't have to like his politics, but awesome. Awesome. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Tweet and text the program. Curt Schilling didn't get into the Hall of Fame. Did not get into the Hall of Fame. Was there a reason for that besides baseball? We're going to talk a bit about that. Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say woo!
A few of the biggest names also have big controversy around them. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling. Out of all 25, Schilling was the closest to getting elected, says Tim Mead, president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
Curt Schilling led the group with votes on 71.1% of ballots cast, finishing just 16 votes short of election.
That from the MLB Network. 2013 was the last time a vote turned up 0 inductees. It's happened 9 times in history.
So the question is, why didn't Curt Schilling get in? Is he not Hall of Fame worthy? And we have to, baseball is big on stats and yesteryear. Big on nostalgia. Very big on nostalgia. And he fell short. So let's look at two sides of things. First, you got Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. They cheated. They cheated on the field. On the field, they did things to enhance themselves, and they cheated, as did a lot of people in the day and age that they played, which was also Curt Schilling's time. Yeah, you can make an argument that both of them, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, were Hall of Fame worthy before they took whatever it is that they took, the clear, Barry Bonds went from like 183 pounds to 6'8" with a 28-inch head, and, he was carrying a redwood like a toothpick. So, there are questions, absolutely. We could talk about it all day. When it comes to them, Curt Schilling is something completely different. His is based on the fact that many people see him as an a-hole who's a conservative that hates everybody who's not conservative. And that's the way they view him. And he has done stuff, tweet-wise, that offended a lot of people. One of them was, I think it was, he tweeted something about a rope, a tree, a journalist, some assembly required. That's not good, especially when journalists are going to be the ones who vote. He's also said stuff about, the mainstream media. He was a Trump supporter. But are his numbers good enough? It's hard to say when you look at the time that we're in, because we're not in the time where you're going to see a lot of guys win 300 games anymore. You're not in it. We're not in a time where we're going to see a lot of these things that we saw way back in the day where, guys had 400 wins or 300 wins. That isn't going to happen. But there's no doubt that politics plays a huge part in it. And the one thing that he did was he won when it mattered. And that was the postseason. That was the postseason. He won in the postseason. He pitched in the postseason, and he won big. And that mattered. I think it's politics for him. He asked yesterday to be taken off of the ballot next year. I don't think they will. Sure, he gets his hope up. He loved the game, won 216 games, and an under 4 ERA in an era where everybody was taking steroids. But politics plays a huge part in today's world, and there's something to that for a lot of people. But if you look at Major League Baseball and you look at all professional sports and their Hall of Fames are littered with awful human beings. But he lives in a time where tweets matter far more than what you did on the field. And what should matter is what you did on the field. But we'll see. He got close. We'll see if he's there next year. He might not be. He might not be. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. You can check us out on the old Facebook. On top of that, we got the Twitter and the Instagram, Chad Benson Show TV, as well on the old YouTube, which is always nice. I get sucked into YouTube, I'll tell you that. There's a rabbit hole you can go down. I got a new one called, I think it's Riddle, and it's just, yesterday I saw one thing of reptiles. It was about snakes. You know, what would happen if venomous snakes got together and they fought each other? Could they could they kill each other because of the venom? Or, next thing you know, it's like 2 hours in. I'm like, did you know that snails killed 200,000 people last year? It's a rabbit hole of fun, though. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
A single dose, relatively easy to store. I think it'll make an enormous difference. The problem is we're not going to have a lot of doses right away because, again, the production didn't really happen. So we're going to have to wait for that.
Dr. Jha right there talking about Johnson & Johnson and why that's the game changer. If you talk to most people who are in the medical world who are looking at the vaccine world, why Johnson & Johnson is absolutely the game changer, and AstraZeneca will be as well. Easy storage. Easy storage. Your doctor can give it. They don't need anything special. They don't need to build anything, buy anything, bring anything in. Walgreens can give it. CVS can give it. Your local pharmacy can give it. Wherever you are in the country. Easy storage. What's that do? Opens it up to everybody. It's going to take a while to ramp up. AstraZeneca, we should have been all over it. Still 2 shots, Johnson & Johnson 1. But why haven't we? Why haven't we ramped this thing up when it comes to the vaccines and run AstraZeneca through it? Because you look and see what's going on in England. I mean, they're not exploding, right? Nobody's growing a tail, a third eye, or horns. They're using it there. What's taking us too long? People want to get back to life and work. That's what they want. They want to get kids back in school. Absolutely. For several reasons. First, they're driving parents crazy. Second, new study came out this week. Parents can't do math. Nope. Big time. Thing they study the least in school. Like, you knew as a kid, like, all right, I'm never going to do anything with math. I need to do the bare minimum to get through, but my life will not be based in a math world. And if it is, we got computers and everything else. Hopefully one day that'll help you with that. I mean, how many of you listen is like, hey, Dad, can you help me with fractions? Sure. And then you got new math, right? New math is like, what? What's this? It's new math. What's wrong with old math? Well, you know, the thing. No, I don't. Was 2 + 2 wrong in old math? Did they screw up? They lie to us back then too? Wow, they lied about our history and now they lied about math? No, it's just different. Parents are struggling. And then the economy side of things. It is absolutely eating small business alive. So yes, these things will be game changers, but they're not going to be here for a bit. So now we have to figure out how we go from point A to point B fast. And I look around. We haven't been great at doing the things that we should have been doing. The feds, especially when Trump was in charge, and I'm not blaming him solely for this, but let's be real, he kind of just bailed on the coronavirus about June, July, where it really wasn't top of mind. Stopped doing the press conferences. It was just a farce. And, you had the all the other crap that was going on. And then right around September, October, he would pay some attention to it only based on the fact that it was hurting the economy, which is hurting his reelection chances. And then once the election came, I don't think he uttered the word coronavirus until there was a vaccine, and he celebrated that, which I give him credit for. But the rollout from there has been a joke.
Part of our effort is certainly to ensure we are more effectively and efficiently working with governors and local officials who have expressed some frustration in recent weeks about the lack of information and the lack of a federal plan. We've only been here 6 days, but we want to take steps as quickly as possible to address that.
Jen Psaki, spokesperson there. Yes, I need to address that on a lot of fronts. What do you have? What don't you have? That's the big thing. What do some people have? What do some states have? And then when it gets to the states, that's on the states. Some states are doing a great job. West Virginia. We've heard stories across the country where they'll have one of those big, we're doing it at a stadium. People will come. They have extra dosages. They're going out into the community saying, we got extra dosages. Do you guys want to get vaccinated? Some states, they're like, we're throwing them away because we have regulations. That's on you. Other states aren't using them. Arizona, we're one of them. Yesterday, the governor comes out with this big order telling everybody, look, you got X amount of dosages over here. These people are doing 5,000 a day. You're doing 50. You got extra dosages. Use them or lose them. So it's not been great with the states, and it's not been great with the feds. And between the two, it's not rolled out well. So now we have to figure out where we go and how we get from point A to point B so we can get people back out there living their lives and working. There's a thing right now they're calling
We're facing a she session.
What some economists are now calling the she session.
The she session.
Yeah, the she session. Women. First of all, when this hit last year, people realized this, that, for all the inequities and how bad the world is and blah, 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 we always hear, more women were in the workforce than men. So they have lost more jobs. I think men like last month in particular, men netted jobs while women lost jobs. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is the industry.
It's been service sector jobs such as childcare, retail, and restaurants, which tend to have more female workers. With us now on whether this means we're facing a she session.
She session. There it is. That's a part of it. Restaurant industry, childcare. Why? Because you're home. And home is the other side of things. Anywhere between 2 and 3 million women have, because they're still the leader when it comes to child care, and as far as taking care of children. Some of them are single mothers. Some of them, the dad and the moms get together. But at the beginning, is about 3 to 4 million jobs will be lost because parents were going to have to make a decision to stay home with their children and teach them because they had no other choice.
When schools emptied in the spring, the she session wasn't far behind.
There was no way I could work.
Gina Vivian stopped taking shifts as a home care nurse to look after her twin boys.
Each day I'm not working. Each day I'm not using my skills.
From February to October, more than 20,000 women left the workforce, whereas nearly 68,000 men joined. And women in 2 age groups are exiting faster, those in their early 20s and late 30s. The latter most likely to be raising kids.
Yeah. And that is just snowballed from there. And this is where we're at. Getting kids back in school, getting people back in the workforce, small, medium-sized businesses, professionals who work in all kinds of different industries. That's why the vaccine is important. And new polls are coming out that people now are more open to taking the vaccine than ever before. Why is that? Well, we've been giving it for 6 or 8 weeks. People haven't exploded. Some people got their second dose. They're starting to realize, okay, well, you know what? Maybe this is okay. Maybe we can do that. The transparency comes is, how long are we going to have to have immunity when you get it, right? Is this a, 2 and done for a year, or is this every 3 months? Is this every 6 months? That's a question. The second question that people are asking is, what about the people who've already got it? Because part of the way that we're going to get to herd immunity in a lot of places is the fact that so many people are asymptomatic and they're not even being counted. Yesterday I asked Dr. Will Humble, who used to run the Department of Health Services here in Arizona, and he said, hey, we're going to get to herd immunity probably almost by a 50-50 at the rate we're going. We need about 4.5 million to 4.8 million people to be vaccinated here in Arizona. He says, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to get about 2.5 to 3 million vaccinated, and the rest would be through exposure and or having it. So some T-cell immunity along with people who've already had it and have the antibodies. That's why Johnson & Johnson and everything else, super important, because the way that goes, the one shot would help us get there faster, especially if you could just go to your doctor. But all of this plays a part because as we move forward, the quicker we get to that herdish immunity, and I think they overshoot. The more I've looked at stuff, I think it's an overshoot. I think they're asking 80% of people to get vaccinated because they know, you know what? If we only get 50 to 55% based on all of the people that have been exposed, have had it and recovered, we'll get there. Because if we ask for 50%, only 30% will do it. But this is the number one thing that the focus should be on for the Biden administration at this moment in time. And the states. And I go back to, and I'll always say this, I don't care if you get vaccinated or don't get vaccinated. That's a choice, and I'm totally cool with that. That should be your choice. But I also think that the way that some of these governors run these states, they always opt to, well, you won't do it, so we're not going to do it, which hurts the economy. And I don't think we should be held hostage by people who don't want to get vaccinated and or who don't understand the risk of not doing something like that, good or bad. I mean, for some people out there, I get why you don't want to do it. You want to wait and see. For some people, you think you're going to have your DNA is going to be changed and they're going to track you, right? Like Bill Gates is tracking you right now along with everybody else. So let's just figure out how we get from point A to point B, but be transparent with everybody in that we're going to get back to a normal way of life sooner rather than later, and we're not going to sit around and wait for everybody to decide what they want to do, because all too often, whether it's social media, things like this, we're protecting people who don't get it or don't want to get it. And I think a lot of those people understand that there may be a risk or don't believe it, but I'm not going to be held hostage by it. Nobody should be. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. AMAC, Association Mature American Citizens, fastest growing over 50 organization in the country. Offers amazing benefits for you. Incredible benefits. Things like retail, restaurant, hotel discounts, and so much more. On top of that, they offer this just great way of using your membership to help you with everything from, things like, hey, what should I be doing for senior living or my golden years? Should I be looking into something like that? What about Medicare insurance plans and emergency assistance and prescription discounts and Social Security and Medicare itself? They'll help you sign up, and they'll give you all the information that you need to get through those frustrating things. Especially more and more people are saying, man, they walked me through Social Security. They gave me all my options. They walked me through signing up with Medicare. Same thing with my mother and father. Take advantage of it. Sign up today. It's pennies a day. I think it's $16 a year. Go to amac.us/Chad to sign up. amac.us/Chad. amac.us/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Welcome to Chad. No, not the country. The institution. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's take a peek of the trending things that take place on the interwebs. For those of you guys who don't know what that is, the World Wide Web. Crazy. Rep. Green. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Georgia's 14th congressional district. New stuff coming out that she supported. I like to say she supported, but she expressed support on her Facebook page for the execution of prominent Democrats in the years before she ran for Congress. One comment she liked said a bullet to the head would be quicker to remove Pelosi. She liked it. She didn't tweet it. She didn't say it, but they've looked at hundreds of her Facebook posts from 2018 to 2019. And, yeah, there's a problem right there with her. There is. And the Democrats are going to run with it. At the same time, the Republicans better figure out how they deal with it. Absolutely. Because that's an issue right there. Elliot Page, not to be confused with Ellen Page, so we got to go through this again. Elliot Page, used to be Ellen Page, the actress, has filed for divorce from wife Emma Porter. And I know what people are going to say, you dead named. No, because when you say Elliot Page, nobody has any idea who you are. But has filed for divorce from Emma Portner, and I can't wait to hear the reason why. It's going to be very interesting to see this battle. Kellyanne Conway defends her actions when she posted pictures of her 16-year-old daughter's breast. As people are saying, you need to go to jail for, child porn. But that whole relationship between her husband and his hatred of Trump, her working for Trump, and then her daughter, depending on the day, hating one or both of them, is Dr. Phil. There's not enough Dr. Phil to fix that. Not enough of that. Goya, board of directors reportedly voted to censure CEO Robert Unani after he made unfounded public claims about voter fraud. Oh, no. Yeah. You knew that was coming, right? Remember last year, you got the MyPillow guy. You know what? We're debating on what's going on with that because it's been a sponsor of my show, but it's out there. I'm not going to lie to you. And you can like the product, but at some point, and I think the same thing with Goya, because and it's different in a way because Mike Lindell, that's him. It's private. Goya has board members and things like this. It's not. So they're asking questions and saying, okay, enough. And Holocaust Remembrance Day is trending. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, especially over the last several years as people have thrown around the word Nazi and compared the likes of Donald Trump and others to, Hitler. What the reality is of what that was and how using that kind of just wording and phrasing really falls short and I think does a disservice. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet, text the program, Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
To stay home if you want to. It's good if you stay home, but you should go out. But you should support local businesses, but safely at home. And if you go to the mall, don't. But you can, but you shouldn't, but you won't. But if you work at the mall, go there. It's open. You're still in business, but no one's there because they should stay at home because they're here. They're staying and they're out. And if you're out, go home. But if you're here, wear a mask when you're out, but don't go out. Stay inside. There's parking tickets now. Move your car because the street's sweeping. But you shouldn't be on the streets because you're at home if you want to. And restaurants are closed, but you can't go to them. But you should stay inside. But go out.
Somebody making fun of Gavin Newsom's bizarre, hey, you guys been locked down for 9 or 10 months. It's time to open things up. I know we're having some of our worst days, but we've got everything under wraps now, and it's really under control. We're doing well, but you know, we can't. We got to be diligent, right? We got to stay strong and be diligent. Oh yeah, and they're trying to recall me, and it went from a never going to happen to, oh my God, it might happen. So yeah. So that's his new bizarre stay at home but go out. Don't eat at restaurants, but whatever you do, go out and frequent your local restaurant. Isn't it nuts? Let's go to the other side of the country for crazy, shall we?
Very troubling turn today. A paramedic has been arrested in Polk County, Florida, allegedly working with a captain to steal 3 doses of the vaccine for the captain's mother. Now, the authorities say that they have one already in custody. That is Joshua Colon. He is the paramedic, and they expect to take the captain into custody later today. Not only does it show the desperation that people may have to get the vaccine, but that paramedic was last year's Paramedic of the Year in Polk County.
Florida and California, kids. There you go. Soak it up. Sometimes the sunshine gets to you. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Kids need to get back in school. Kids are struggling big time, and parents are getting, well, they're over it. You know it. I know it for a lot of different reasons. There's a new report out that, hey, you know what? Maybe the transmission of this isn't as bad, and in certain situations this should stay open. No, kids need to be out there. We've known pretty much since the beginning of this that the transmission, while possible, was nowhere near the transmission of, say, the flu when it comes to adults and kids. So, doesn't really hurt kids. Not saying that kids haven't died or can't, but it is, when you look at the numbers, the flu is far worse for children. And the other side of things, the transmission side to each other and to teachers, that's the thing that you're looking at when you're sending kids back to school.
The CDC finding the rate of spread in those schools is much lower than the average community growth during the same period. But experts warn those results may not be representative of all areas.
Why is that? Well, because the study was done in Wisconsin, more rural schools. There was a group that funded the study and went in and did certain things to schools to make it safe, but most of it was social distancing, smaller classrooms, and masks. Can't be done everywhere. In saying that, kids can still return safely to school. They can. Parents need it too for their sanity, but also for their paycheck. So, you know, we're at a kind of a standoff here. And what I saw, like here in particular, whether it's Arizona, California, Chicago, wherever it is, across the country, I hear it, that so many parents who have gone out there and fought hard for teachers feel like now, and this isn't all teachers, but they feel like that the unions and the reps in places where they don't have unions are using this as a political ploy to make sure that they ask for other things because they realize they've got parents and stuff in a predicament. And that's not the teachers per se. Some of them it is, but a lot of it is all based on the unions and the reps. But it's hurting kids. Now, a lot of teachers want to teach. Some of them are worried. I get that. But it's time that we start asking teachers, who of you is prepared to go back? Okay, great. You guys are prepared. You're younger. You feel healthy. You want to go back. Fine. Same thing with kids. Whoever you're prepared to be. Most parents are like, we're going to send them off. We're going to send them off. So my son, Jack, who struggled, his aunt, who was very close to it, she had a double lung transplant about 3 years ago. They've got to be extremely cautious with her, and they are. Jack doesn't see her that much when normally he'd see her all the time. He's 10. And normally his mom is very cautious about everything, but she's like, he needs to be back in school. I mean, we'll see Auntie when this is over. He needs to be back in school because he does, because his mental well-being, along with his education, has suffered. Parents are struggling as well.
My children have been homeschooling since March of last year. Let me tell you that my daughter, she's a junior in high school. She is excelling, doing the best that she can. But this is the time where she is supposed to be thriving even more, talking to school counselors about college. She can't even get a response from her college counselors. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's absolutely frustrating. And it's not just the education side. I mean, yeah, it's been a long time for some of these kids to be away from the education side, even though some kids are doing okay when it comes to the remote learning, but it's not for everybody. And if there's a point where I don't think people realize that, and we've taken it away, a lot of it because we've turned school into this bizarre wokeness where we don't let kids to do the things. But this time of your life, every year is a growth year as you as a human being. It's where you're trying to overcome issues, whether it be on the playground or as you get older, and everything from datings to friendships to also the other side of stuff like sports and extracurricular activities that help you grow as well, that are very important to you as a young person becoming an older person, becoming an adult.
My 8th grader, on the other hand, this is a pivotal time for him. He is supposed to be thriving, dealing with sports, which are gone. He is supposed to be, school crushes. Not that you would want to encourage that, but at the same time, that's a part of this time in his life. And, just having that camaraderie with his teachers.
That's Lucy Mitchell, resident in Portland, talking about it. Yeah, sports, camaraderie, all of that's when the growth happens, right? That's the beauty of being a kid. It's like when you go to college, you're paying in a lot of ways for your kids to have an apartment in another city, state, or somewhere else to kind of live their own life. Is like it's almost a tester kind of experience. But part of that is the growth side, a little expensive, but on a smaller scale, and maybe even as an important scale, are things like this. And she hits it out of the park with this, and I think most people feel this way when it comes to your kids and what's going on online as far as school.
He is dealing with insomnia. He is dealing with struggles and overwhelm. I'm sorry, but I don't deal with 8 hours of Zoom calls in my job, and my son does.
Yeah. My son is so beyond bored at school. It's 8 hours of listening to somebody drone on with very little interaction. And people are like, well, they could watch YouTube for 8 hours. Yeah, I could watch YouTube for 8 hours because there's 1,000 things that are interesting. And I get to pick and choose the things that are interesting. For a lot of these kids, there is no pick and choose of any of that stuff. I have listened to some of Jack's teachers, and his school is my son's 10. His school, he goes to a STEM school. It's very well prepared. They set this thing up in such a way because they foresaw what was going to happen. And the minute school finished last year, they went straight into developing things. And you know what? It is Bueller. And after a while, it's all, it's crazy. I couldn't do it. I'd be like, this is the worst. God bless him, but it's affected him. He's put on about 15 pounds because he doesn't play sports. I mean, there's just, and so much more emotional. Same thing with my mother and the fight she has with my other little brother, my adopted brother. Same age as Jack. Let me tell you something. He is having serious issues. Like And he's already got issues. But, and then my other little brother, right? So I got adopted brothers and sisters. You listen to the show. My sister had a bunch of kids. My mother's adopted them all. So I have a little brother that's like 9. I have a little brother that's 10. My other little brother's 9, goes to a private school. He's thriving. It's amazing the way that they've done. They've had 0 kids get infected or anything at school. They come in, they have a robot that cleans the place. Yes, it's private school, but it is done right, and it's amazing. But in the last year, to see the maturity level, because he was very immature, he's expanded, and my other little brother has gotten to the point now where it's just, my mom's like, every day it's a fight just to get him to get up and do anything. And I'm like, yeah. It affects lives. Coronavirus needs to be handled, but teachers, I read a great op-ed the other day, I think it was in the Washington Post, about, hey, we're pushing teachers to the front of the line to get this vaccine, to get kids back in school, and then you're having teachers say, well, we're not going to go back. Well, guess what? If you're not going back, you're not getting the vaccine. It's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Am I wrong? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Speaking of Zoom, we're going to talk about what's happening to adults when it comes to Zoom. Kids, this right here, let me tell you something. My uncle told me something last night that I'm like, wow, this is real. Based on this article and study that's being done, it's fascinating. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. ExpressVPN, virtual private network. So what it does is essentially hide your activity, right? Hide your IP address, makes your activity more difficult to trace. Why is that good? Well, guess what? When you're zooming around on the internet, every time you go somewhere, what happens? You ever notice when you go and you look up one thing, like, hey, you know what? I need a new watch. You go to your socials or somewhere else, everything that pops up is watch. Because you are the bait. All they want is your data so they can sell it to advertisers. That's where ExpressVPN comes in. Anonymizes much of your online presence, hides your IP address, makes it tougher for them to trace and to sell. On top of that, encrypts 100% of your data to protect you from eavesdroppers on your network. That's what ExpressVPN's all about. That's what you do to protect yourself and your data, and it's easy to use. One tap of a button on your phone or your computer, and boom, you're protected. So this is what's great about ExpressVPN. So you go to expressvpn.com/Benson. You go visit my link. With a year package, they give you an extra 3 months. You're like, oh, how much is it? 16 cents a day, I think, is what I worked it out to. Maybe 16 to 20 cents a day, depending on what package, a day to protect yourself. Extra 3 months. EXPRESSVPN.com/Benson. ExpressVPN.com/Benson to protect your data today. Chad Benson Show.
Darn, that climate change. Batten down the hatches. It's Topical Storm Chad, headed your way.
He is dealing with insomnia. He is dealing with struggles and overwhelm. I'm sorry, but I don't deal with 8 hours of Zoom calls in my job, and my son does.
That's a mom talking about her kids struggling with the Zoom calls. Lucy Mitchell there, as we were talking about parents and dealing with kids. But the Zoom thing is real. And what he doesn't struggle with, a lot of us do. And the fact that we're sitting there and we're on Zoom calls or video conference calls, and what used to be a one-off thing is now an everyday thing, and sometimes it's several hours a week or even a day, depending on, you're on a call for 45 minutes here, an hour there, and lo and behold, you're looking into a mirror that's not very flattering, and you're staring at it, and then you're looking at other people, and then you start saying to yourself, oh, I need to do something.
Well, Zoom dysmorphia is used to describe people wanting to cosmetically change their features because of how they look on a video call. During the coronavirus pandemic, the activities of millions are shifting from in-person to online. From work to family celebrations, video chats are becoming the norm. Dermatologist A. Shadi Karosh, she says all those hours in front of the camera are prompting many people to go under the knife. She's coined the term as Zoom dysmorphia.
Yeah. Because you sit there, like everybody listening, you have a mirror in your house that you like, and you probably have a mirror you don't like. So you look at that mirror and go, ugh, and then you go over here and you're like, all right, so maybe it's somewhere in between. But now you're staring at something that more often than not isn't giving you a good representation. And you're seeing yourself in a way that chances are people on the other side aren't seeing you, and you're staring at it. And my uncle, we joke about it. My uncle, I love him to death. We're best friends. He's a big dude. He is. He's a big boy. We've talked about it. You know, I'm like, dude, I love you. You got to get healthy. We're business partners, but most importantly, we're family and friends, and you need to get healthy. But the one thing he's not is he's not one of these people that, like, you know, he likes to dress nice and stuff, but the appearance side. He said to me yesterday, because we were talking a bit about this, he goes, oh my God, dude. He goes, I say, I need to change my nose. I think everybody does it. And you're staring at a mirror, essentially, because how often than not are you looking at, instead of looking into the camera, you're looking at yourself and thinking, oh God, look at this. I look gross. Like a fat shin. I got this.
Dr. Shadi Karosh and her peers surveyed more than 100 board-certified dermatologists across the nation to see if patients are seeking cosmetic procedures in order to improve their appearance on video conferencing calls.
People were spending excessive amounts of time video conferencing and confronting their own reflection.
50% of doctors surveyed indicated a relative rise in cosmetic procedures despite the pandemic.
Yeah. Because we're a vain society. Who doesn't want to look good? The reason we work out, stay healthy. Most of us work out. Yes, health is a huge part of it, but it's because we also really kind of want to look good. Right? That's a big thing. How can I look good as well?
She says oftentimes the image we see in a lens is distorted and not a true reflection of ourselves.
We have the tools to alter and improve a person's appearance, but those need to be used wisely and in the correct circumstances.
And it's tough because we're also living in a world where we're online, where we're not doing that, looking at other people who in many cases have unrealistic standards of beauty, who also go and touch up all of their stuff before they ever put it. You think the Kardashians take some sort of candid shot, put it out there? No, they don't. So I get it. And you're staring at something that doesn't give us a good look. And I could see why people do it, because I've caught myself going, you know, even before a call starts, because I look straight into it once that happens. But even before that, oh, look at me here. I got a little bit of here. I could, you know, I need to do this. And you got to catch yourself going, that's not real. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. And everybody, you also have a good selfie side and a bad selfie side. You know that as well when you do your duck lips. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We didn't get into this mess overnight. It's going to take months for us to turn things around.
That's President Biden. He's right. This is this mess of coronavirus. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. It's a little bit easier to get into trouble than it is to get out of this kind of trouble. It's like weight. You put weight on a lot faster than you take it off. So now the question is, how are we going to get out of it? Well, vaccination's obviously a big part of it. And I think transparency and education across the board of allowing people, look, you have to take responsible for you. right? So you, me, and we're all responsible for us and the things that we can control within our life. Some people out there, more people now, according to new polls, are more inclined to take the vaccine than when the vaccine first came out. Part of that is because when they look at the vaccine, they see people haven't exploded, and that some people who've been on the vaccine for a while who were in the test group are doing fine, so they're more apt to take it. Those people that were vaccine hesitant, who were probably going to take it, but we're definitely going to wait and see. Some people are never going to take it. And I'm worried as much as far as what the states and people will decide to do based on the people who don't get it. Some people can't, right? Some people, because of allergies, maybe it's a religious thing, they can't. Some are just not going to get it, which I'm totally fine with. But the question then becomes, how do we react to that? Because to get our some normality back in our world, which is exactly what all of us want, we're going to have to get to some sort of herd immunity. And most of it will probably be through vaccinations, especially if we're able to get a few more vaccines. And one of those, and maybe the most important one, is Johnson & Johnson.
A single dose, relatively easy to store. I think it'll make an enormous difference. The problem is we're not going to have a lot of doses right away because, again, the production didn't really happen. So we're going to have to wait for that.
Okay, so you have to wait for that. And that's going to be a bit. And that's important. Johnson & Johnson's important for a few reasons. One, it's one shot. As we know, we're very lazy. Like, that's our thing. We're kind of super lazy. Like, oh my God, I go, like, we're people of convenience. The two shot, you got to register across the state, and maybe your city, you got to be 65, but you can be, you can have comorbidities and go to this one. This one only doing 75. It's frustrating. And you're like, ugh. Plus the care for it. It's got to be in special refrigerators. Johnson & Johnson and the AstraZeneca, neither of them need to be in special refrigerators, which means your doctor, Walgreens, CVS, all of them can administer it. That's great. Still going to take a while. So right now, we got to go with what we go with, and we don't have enough dosages, and that may take who knows how long. Transparency is of the utmost importance, but also transparency to everybody that isn't going to take it for whatever reason, that there's going to be calculated risk, and we can't be held hostage as a state or as a nation by some people not wanting to get vaccinated. And I think that needs to be clear. And I don't hear Biden talk about that. That absolutely needs to be clear. And I would love to see people in the media who are there ask that question, just out of curiosity, President Biden. And I know it's a state thing, but at what point do we say everybody's had the opportunity to get the vaccine and they have not? It's time for us to return to normal. And should they get sick, which we don't want anybody to do, and hopefully by then we'll have gotten to the point where we have reached some sort of herd immunity, but we may not be there. That's on them, and that we can't be like, well, this person's not going to do it, so we all have to suffer. And I think that's important, especially when you look at things like school. We've been talking about schools all day. You're hearing places where teachers are like getting vaccinated, but like, I don't want to return to the classroom. No. That's why you got bumped to the front of the line, because the importance of getting children in school was that. Absolutely. These are things that need to be talked about. Fighting over, did Trump do a bad job? Did Trump did a good job? Depends on what side of the aisle you're on and how you want to look at things. And if you're objective at all, you'll come up with a reasonable thought that, you know what, horrible job on a lot of this stuff, great job on the vaccine. We're moving on with our lives. This stuff right here are things that people want to know about, because I get asked this all the time. Hey, what if I don't want to get one? Do you understand the risk? It's like when you go to the hospital, right? And they want to run more tests, but you're like, I feel fine, I want to go. You got to sign stuff that says, do you understand the risk of what may happen? Because they don't want to be held liable. But you as an adult should have the personal responsibility to say, I'm responsible for me. If something happens, that's on me. It's the same thing here. If you've had access and you don't get it, why should I have to wear a mask or two or not go outside, not see my mom or my nephews and nieces? And why should we all be held to a standard because you don't want to? I think it's ridiculous. Same, like when I was a kid growing up. We had a kid in school. And just, hey, little Jimmy over here, he's allergic to peanuts. Okay, well, then I'll eat my peanut butter and jelly sandwich over here. We won't give him a peanut. Jimmy can sit over there. Now it's like, well, Jimmy's allergic to peanuts, so there can't be peanuts on the school grounds. That's the insanity. We can't let that happen. And you've seen it across the country where governors, in particular in blue states, have come down hard with these bizarre rules and, much of it not based in science, while they're screaming science. And it seems like they're trying to cure death. And they're always trying to protect some sort of, the lowest common denominator, whether it be through, these people can't make their own decisions up based on fake news, so we better figure out how we guard them for that, or we got to help them. I'm sorry, I can't live my life like that. I don't think any of us should be held hostage to people who don't want to get it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your tweeter. You can tweeter at me right there. Tweeter at me. Feel free to do that. There's impeachment still, something else that is going to be talked about. We're going to touch on it briefly here and there. And I've told you guys my stance on this. When the trial starts, we'll touch on it a little bit more. But there is the question of, is this the right time? And is it even possible? And I think those are very real questions that need to be answered. First of all, is it the right time? Our buddy, the funny John Kennedy, our Southern guy that we love, he did ask a question yesterday, and I think it's a very relevant question about impeachment of a president who's not a president anymore.
I know that common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C., but I think a fair-minded, rational person would ask Congress to vote to ask the Supreme Court to rule on the constitutionality of impeaching a president who isn't president before we put the country through this. I just don't see how this is in the common good of our country. In fact, I think it's corrosive to the common good.
I think he's got a fair question to ask there that has nothing to do with politics, but, hey, guys, before we do this, can we do this? Or are we going to get to a point where we get it up to the top court and they said, and I think that right there is a real question to ask because, no matter what happens here, if he's going to be convicted of, inciting insurrection, which he's not going to be. We're going to touch on that in a minute. But the reality is what is the punishment? And is it even anything that can happen? Because, yeah, you started it when he was in office, but then he left office. And one of the big punishments is removal of office that he doesn't hold anymore. A lot of questions around this. And the other question is this the right time? I'm not saying we should or shouldn't have it. I think the powers that be need to figure that out if this is constitutional. But is this the right time to have it? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Tweet at us. How much closer are we getting in the Doomsday Clock? Talk a bit about that. Are we getting closer? Tick, 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 tick. So silly. Wounded Paw Project, just an amazing organization. So it was founded by a vet who was struggling with PTSD, didn't think, his name was Ernesto, didn't think he just was struggling with so many things, wounded, issues, and it was a dog that came to the rescue. He rescued a dog, and everything changed. Attitude, life, and he's like, I should do this for real. And over the years, he's expanded it to not only veterans, but first responders and their families. Of both, and it's incredible because it's not just now. The dog that he rescued, the one who started it all, wasn't a service dog. Now they take dogs and rescue them from being euthanized and train them to be service dogs to help with everything from, getting themselves back into a normal way of life after being in war, or, people who have struggled with, injuries, as well as their family members who struggle with all kinds of disabilities and stuff. It's amazing what these dogs can do, but they need your help. Gift of a vehicle, great tax-deductible gift. What's that mean? Well, it means that, you know what? Hey, they give you a great tax-deductible gift. You're like, woo, look what I got for that. And I'm going to write this off against the money I made last year. That's the brilliance of that. But it also goes, most importantly, to help train, advocate, and rescue these animals for our veterans, first responders, and their family. Find out how you can help by going to woundedpawproject.org. 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 Check it out for yourself. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
To be free. I am not a terrorist. I am not Antifa. I am not a sex slave that wears masks.
Don't be a cutie pie.
Probably sit around and cook some soups and eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
You're running my life, man!
You haven't seen anything yet.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
The bulletin of the atomic scientist's doomsday clock minute hand last year was set at 100 seconds from midnight, the closest so far. It said humanity faces nuclear war, climate change, cyber-enabled information warfare that undercuts society's ability to respond. The bulletin's Science and Security Board meets twice a year and consults with scientists and other experts. The doomsday clock was created in 1947. It was farthest from 12 a.m. in 1991 at the end of the Cold War.
Yeah, so it's still at 100 seconds. It would have gone 5 minutes ahead and it would have been over, but Trump lost. So there was that. So we're not heading to doomsday just yet, but we're 100 seconds away, even though, first of all, it's called the doomsday clock. So it already has an ominous kind of feel to it. It's a doomsday clock. And we could debate climate change. But when you go and look at wars, not a lot going on out there. Well, a lot of people have nuclear weapons. Nobody's using them. Nobody's going to use a nuclear weapon. It's not. I mean, it's not happening. Could it happen? Of course, anything could happen. The earth could open up today and swallow us whole. Aliens could land here. But the reality is we're in a safer time in our history. Take even coronavirus. We're living longer. We're in a safer time in our history. You've got to read through all the crap that's out there because the media loves panic porn. Anything to scare you because it evokes an emotion and gets you scared. The doomsday clock. Why not the happiness clock? Where's that? The great article in the study yesterday at Baylor University. Did a study, and it said, you know what? People who are happier, they live longer. Their heart's healthier. Less stress. They got a smile on their face. They're bouncy. Something about it, like Tigger. Like Tigger's going to live a long time. Eeyore's on his last leg. Not just because he's got tetanus, because he's got a nail in his ass, because they nailed something in there for his tail. Oh, jeez. But because one's bouncy and happy, has a better outlook. So that person tends to be, potentially they care more about their health and this and the other, but there's just something to it. Doomsday clock. A bunch of scientists get together. All right, guys, look at us. We're all together. Bring a bunch of strippers in. Hey, let's roll this thing back. Called the Super Happy Clock. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. So, yes, when it comes to the doomsday of politics, Trump was front and center and still plays a part. And the question I continue to ask is, should there be accountability? Should we be talking about this? Yeah, I think there needs to be all kinds of investigation what took place that day and the subsequent 60 days after the election. I've got zero problems with that.
I don't think you can skip the accountability phase when you've had a president engaged in an attempted violent insurrection against the U.S. government. That's what happened here.
But is this the right time? If you're Donald Trump, You want to live rent-free in everybody's head. You like it. You're that kid who doesn't care about what kind of attention you get as long as you're getting attention. Being a martyr's great. Can't defend myself. Don't have Twitter. Don't have access to stuff. I've got to do things, in different ways. And so if you're Biden, though, I don't want all of my press conferences to have him living in there in some way, shape, or form. I don't want all of my press conferences with my COVID team to be basically about the failure of the last administration and or Trump got you the vaccine. Why can't you do stuff? Because you're fighting this. I want to get it done as fast as possible. But the question is, do we have things out there that are more important? Yes. Is this legal to even do constitutionally? Some say yes, some say no. I think that's eventually going to be a SCOTUS decision. But at the end of the day, it's not about should they or shouldn't they. They're going to. But the timing is important. And if I'm Biden, I'm hyper-focused on getting this done and dusted as fast as possible because I don't want this living in every one of my press conferences and everything I'm about. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Look, in the weeks ahead, I'll be reaffirming the federal government's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, building on the work we started in the Obama-Biden administration. I'm rescinding the previous administration's harmful ban on diversity and sensitivity training and abolish the offensive counterfactual 1776 Commission. Unity and healing must begin with understanding and truth, not ignorance and lies.
And making sure that everybody out there feels guilty about something that you didn't do. It's also that. Chad. Look, I'm all for diversity, but I think diversity, like everything else, it needs to be organic. And it needs to be real. Zero problems with diversity. I've always said, to me, I want the best. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you love. I don't care what you identify as. I don't care what you look like. I want the best. I do. Wokeness for the sake of wokeness, I find to be ridiculous. I think most people, if they're honest with themselves, would totally admit that. If you're honest with yourself. We were talking off air. I said, let me run through two scenarios. Right? Two scenarios. This plane and this plane are both going to be flying through some really gnarly stuff, and it's going to get hairy. This plane is super diverse, with everything as diverse as you can be. Are they competent? I don't know. I don't know. But they're super diverse. This plane over here just has the best of the best. The wings fall off. They're still going to land the plane. But this one's super woke and super diverse. This one, I'm not even telling you who's flying. Could be two white guys, could be two white ladies, could be... I'm just saying this is the best. And it may not be diverse, but it's the best. We're flying through bad stuff? Yeah. I'll take that one, the one that's going to land, that I know is going to land, that I know is the best. Because it's when it's your life or something like that, it's like with, we talk about all the time. It's Woke Wednesday. We talk about woke stuff on Wednesdays. We talk about things like when we talk about climate change, right? Climate change is a perfect thing where it makes everybody feel good, but how much are you really participating in the climate change world when it comes to things like money. Oh, I don't know. Because, we heard the doomsday clock's not going anywhere. Greta's back.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We will control all that you see and hear. The outer limits.
My name is Greta Thunberg, and I'm not here to make deals. You see, I don't belong to any financial interest or political party, so I can't bargain or negotiate. I'm only here to once again remind you of the emergency we are in, the crisis that you and your predecessors have created and inflicted upon us. I'm here to remind you of the promises that you have made to your children and grandchildren, and to tell you that we are not willing to compromise.
Well, first of all, I've made no promises to my kid. I tell him all things. His life is sometimes going to kick you in the grundle, brother. So just be prepared for it. There's no promises. There's no promise of tomorrow. Make the most of it. Grab by the horns and run with it. And people are going to use crap to scare you. Don't buy into it. But, oh, look at that. It makes people feel good, like we're saving whales and we're saving this. And look, I am all about getting us off fossil fuels. I want cleaner water, cleaner air. We need to take better care of our home. Why? Not because it's the woke thing to do, because it's the right thing to do. And when we can get ourselves off fossil fuels and have better, cleaner burning energy, great. We got to do it the right way. Nothing wrong with that. But this is where science becomes political, but it also becomes, I'm going to appeal to you in such a way. It's going to make you feel good by doing it. And if you question it, you're going to feel bad. If you dare bring it up, I'm going to make you feel bad. Oh, jeez. Chad doesn't like penguins. Because that's what happens. But when they ask people, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up? What's the dollar amount? Depending on which study, it's anywhere from like $17 a year to $100 a year. Because we want somebody else to sacrifice for us. Like if we could, right? Like if as human beings, let's be real. If we could get somebody to go work out for us and the benefits of that working out and eating for us could transfer to us, we would all do it. Because we all want that. But what are we willing to give? But she is part of a group. She's part of a group that has used her, Greta Thunberg, and I think in a very crappy way, because I think she's very concerned and I think she's very real. She comes across a little hard-assy. I'm fine with that. I know a lot of people on the right freak out about her. I got no problems with it, right? She's kind of, she does her thing. Not soft and cuddly.
I'm not telling you what to do. After all, safeguarding future living conditions and preserving life on Earth as we know it is voluntary. The choice is yours to make. But I can assure you this. You cannot negotiate with physics. And your children and grandchildren will hold you accountable for the choices that you make. How's that for a deal?
We now return control of your television set to you. Until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to the outer limits.
So funny. Great work by Anthony. But that's very real right there. So much of it is like, it's when you listen to the wokeness of what's going to happen and you listen to it's either about scaring you or guilting you or making you feel good. And a lot of people out there I talk to, they're not woke. They're not. It's all about how do I look to other people? Do other people think I'm doing something great for the environment? Do other people think that I am solid allies with the LGBT community? And whether or not they believe 99% of the stuff that they stand behind or get outraged about. And then the right jumps on it, just like the left jumps on somebody who said something or tweets something that somebody doesn't like. And that's the battle that happens. Look, I love diversity's great. But is it real? I don't know. Is it? Well, it should be. And I'm all for giving people chances that otherwise wouldn't get chances. But I think saying things like, I'm going to guarantee that I'm hiring a woman. Shouldn't you hire the best? Isn't that part of the equality side of thing is, hey, it's an equal footing. Well, we're not all on equal footing. I understand that. And some people suck. And some people have to fight just so much. I mean, some people literally are fighting uphill in a windstorm with a rock, giant boulder, just crushing down on them. And that's what they have to go through. And other people are going up on a conveyor belt or an escalator in a lounge chair. Yeah, it sucks. But I want the best. And I think most people do. And yes, we should give people chances that otherwise wouldn't get chances. Totally agree with that. So in this woke time, how do we find out what's real and what's not? Because it's so disingenuous by so many people out there who are more about, do I look good, not whether or not they believe it. You know, you come out and, you know, like Spike Lee comes out. He got an award the other night for Da 5 Bloods. Great movie, by the way. Amazing. About Vietnam vets, gold. It's just super. And he compared Trump to Hitler. You can't do that. Well, that's woke, and everybody cheers. And, oh, yeah, he is. No, he's not. He's not even close to that. But it's great to say something like that because he's bad, and he's evil. And it's a great thing because he's all the things that are evil and bad. No, he's not. You didn't like the way he tweeted. The fact that he's a Richard. He was all over. He led an incursion. You know what? That's going to be debated whether or not that did or didn't happen. That's going to be fought out elsewhere. But, and on a day like today, which is Holocaust Remembrance Day, let's remember who Adolf Hitler was. He killed systematically 6 million Jews. And that did not include, numbers-wise, the gypsies, the gays, the communists, the partisans, the Christians, the people that were disabled. No. He also led a war that killed 50 million people. He's not Adolf Hitler. He is not Chairman Mao, Kim Jong-il, or Un. He is not Stalin. But it's woke to say that. And so much of the stuff that I see in the wokeness world is all about saying something, and very few people live it. And that drives me crazy. Yeah, I'm for equality. Absolutely. And yeah, we should be fighting things to make sure that people have fair shots and better shots and giving people opportunities. I was watching this great thing with Thomas Sowell the other day talking about, you know, letting African-American kids in the 70s, 80s, and 90s into places like MIT where they were trying to be, you know, this inclusion and diversity. And he said some of these kids just weren't ready. And instead of going to like the Illinois Institute of Technology where they would have done really well and gone on and, you know, could have done a lot of different things, they struggled because they weren't prepared. But that want to do something. And so often not, this is based on originally a feel good, like I want to do this because I think it's right. But at the end of the day, other people hijack it and it goes from something you want to do that's right to, hey, now we've got something that we can use politically. And in doing so, we can get our message and do things in a political nature that may damage people we don't agree with. And that's what drives people crazy. And that's why the right screams and yells, and they have every right to do it. I do it as well. I tell you guys, the wokeness is the war that needs to be fought. Inclusion, diversity, all that stuff. Absolutely. 110%. But organic and real. And it does a disservice to set people up in positions where you don't think they're going to succeed, but you want to feel good. I don't think that's fair either. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Shark capital of the world, the shark bite capital of the world. Where is it? We'll touch on that. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
The Pentagon says the new rules support diversity, equity, and inclusion that accepts the experiences and backgrounds of every soldier and civilian. They include allowing earrings, lipstick, and nail color for women and clear nail polish for men. There's no minimum hair length for women, with ponytails, braids, and twists allowed. Hair highlights are no problem as long as they're not bright colors like pink, purple, or neon colors.
That's the new rules for the military, the Army. Here's the rules for Army. You're there to do a job, and potentially some of you will have to do a different kind of job that is violent. So I know that we're all into equity and inclusion and stuff, but I'm just saying. It's crazy. Somebody asked me today, what do you think about trans in the military? I'm like, can they do the job? I don't care. If you could do the job, again, I don't care. Do you know any trans people? My godson is trans. Love him to death. His name's Micah. We gave him the name Roger, though. I'm like, don't really like Micah. I like Roger, so we call him Roger. Love Roger to death. Do anything for that kid. Love him. I have zero problems. Smart, well-grounded, good kid. We're moving on. Some of this stuff, it's virtue signaling that is just ridiculous. And I think in years we're going to look back and we're going to go, wow, we got that wrong. We just were way out there. We need sensitivity training. For what? How about this? You know the kind of sensitivity training we need? Is not the kind that people think. We need a different kind, which is a kind that teaches people not to be so damn sensitive. That's the sensitivity training. Hey, guys, this is a new sensitivity training course. All of you are offended by something. We're going to teach you today how not to be offended and how to grow some tougher skin. This person tweeted something. Scroll down. It's like those commercials on Geico on how not to be your parents, which are the funniest commercials out there, by the way. If you've not seen them, just Google them. It's worth it. Shark bite capital of the world is United States. And in the United States, the shark bite capital is Florida. Florida. Yeah, lots of people were bitten by sharks last year. That's the way they make you think. It's like, oh, my God, how many people were bitten? Unprovoked attacks. It's not a lot. Right? Last year, 16% of shark bites. 16 unprovoked shark bites in Florida. Australia had some, but you talk about this and you're like, oh, like people talk about, here's something, snake bites. Let's throw it out there. People to understand what snake bites do. On average, 60 to 80,000 people a year die from snake bites. In places like India, this is what's crazy. The study from the World Health Organization said over a lifetime of risk, your chances of dying from a snake bite potentially is 1 in 250. In some areas, it's 1 in 100. And that's the reports they know about. But the sharks are bigger. And they don't have like snake bite week. Just like with Shark Week, right? Why do we watch Shark Week? Honestly, do you really want to care? Like, this is the Greenland shark. It grows 1 centimeter a year. And, and it's like, yeah, that's neat, but when do they attack the surfer? They don't. Well, I don't want to see it then. That's kind of why I watch it. Somebody getting bit by a cobra in the middle of India is not as exciting as that. It's awful. The results are the same, but we are the shark bite capital, and it's Florida because, it's Florida. Mostly bull sharks. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. And the bull shark, for those of you, I believe has more testosterone than any other creature on the planet. Hence the reason why they don't make good pets. Now you know something. Have a blessed day. We got you over the hump. We do that. Follow along all social media. You got the Facebook, you got the Instagram and Twitter at Chad Benson Show. And, of course, Chad Benson Show TV on YouTube. We'll do it again tomorrow. Night, Jack.
is The Chad Benson Show.